I can still hear the echo of the champagne glass against porcelain, a sound that should have signaled celebration, but instead marked the collapse of my marriage. The restaurant was filled with the laughter of family and friends gathered to honor my daughter Amelia's college graduation. I had worn my best dress, one Amelia had chosen for me, soft navy silk that she said made me look regal. My heart was brimming with pride as I watched her sit there with her cap still perched crookedly on her head, glowing with youth and possibility. But in the span of a single breath, the life I had known for nearly 3 decades shattered. "I've decided to start a new life without you," Gregory announced, his voice booming across the table as if he were making a toast. My husband of 28 years, the man I had sacrificed my career for, the father of my only child, chose that moment, our daughter's moment, to declare he was leaving me. The clinking of silverware stopped, forks hovered midair, conversations froze like a photograph, and then 50 pairs of eyes turned toward me. They waited for the tears, the screaming, the spectacle. They expected me to crumble, but I didn't. I smiled. I looked my husband in the eye and said, "Congratulations on your honesty. My name is Bianca Caldwell. I am 54 years old, and until that moment I had played the role of the devoted wife and mother so perfectly that even I had forgotten the other parts of myself. I had raised Amelia, managed our home, put aside my ambitions to support Gregory through business ventures and reinventions, through failures and fleeting passions. While he chased dreams, I held the ground steady. But I had known about Cassandra, his much younger girlfriend. I had seen the transfers, the dinners, the jewelry. I had read the messages about their future together. I had known for months, and I had been planning. From the corner of my eye, I saw Cassandra shift uncomfortably at a table in the back, surrounded by people I once called friends. Friends who knew but never told me. Friends who smiled in my kitchen at Christmas while betrayal simmered under their tongues. She was pretty polished and 17 years my junior, but her discomfort gave me a small, bitter comfort. I reached into my handbag and pulled out the cream-colored envelope I had prepared for this exact moment. I placed it gently beside Gregory's plate. His smirk faltered. "What's this?" he asked, his voice unsteady. "Something for you to read later," I said, steady as stone. Then I kissed Amelia on the cheek, whispered, "I am so proud of you, sweetheart. This day is about you," and rose to address the stunned room. "Please enjoy your meal. I wish you all a lovely afternoon." And then I walked out. The heavy door swung shut behind me, silencing the whispers, the gasps, the awkward shifting of guests in their seats. Outside, the Augusta summer heat hit me like a wall, but for the first time in years I could breathe. Behind me, the door slammed open. Gregory's voice chased after me, high-pitched, frantic. "Bianca. What the hell is this? What have you done?" But I didn't stop walking. I let a small smile tug at my lips. Because that envelope, the one he held in his trembling hands, was not just a letter, it was the beginning of my revenge. For years, Gregory had underestimated me. I was the practical one, the steady one, the woman who balanced the checkbook while he gambled on failing restaurants and handcrafted furniture ventures that fizzled in 6 months. I was the one who quietly saved for Amelia's education while he claimed we needed to tighten our belts. I was the one who worked extra hours at Truvantacorp while he drifted through phases of self-discovery. He never saw me as dangerous, but I had always been watching, always calculating. 3 months before Amelia's graduation, I noticed small discrepancies in our joint accounts. Transfers to an account I didn't recognize. At first I thought it was a mistake, but after 20 years of managing finances, I knew red flags when I saw them. Instead of confronting him, I started digging. And what I found turned my stomach. For over a year, Gregory had been siphoning money into a separate account. He was taking Cassandra to expensive restaurants, buying her jewelry, even looking at beachfront property, all while telling me that we couldn't afford little luxuries anymore, that retirement required sacrifices. He was lying to me while planning his grand exit. But he had forgotten one crucial thing: I am a financial professional. I know how to trace money. I know how to build a case. And I remembered the prenuptial agreement, the one he insisted on nearly 3 decades ago. Ironically, he had put it in place to protect himself from my family's money. But tucked inside was a fidelity clause, a clause that would now be his undoing. I gathered the evidence: bank transfers, messages, receipts. I documented everything. I filed for divorce quietly, ensuring the papers would be served before his big announcement. I played the role of devoted wife while building the scaffolding of his downfall. So when he raised that champagne glass at Amelia's graduation, thinking he was stepping into his bright new life, he had no idea he was stepping into a trap I had already sprung. That night, I didn't return to the restaurant. I drove home instead. Our colonial house in Augusta's historic district looked unchanged, family photos still on the walls, the grandfather clock still ticking in the hallway, the couch where we once dreamed of our future together, still worn from years of use. But everything had changed. Upstairs, I opened the closet and saw his bags already packed, tucked neatly in the back. He had been planning to leave tomorrow. Predictable, meticulous with his clothes, but careless with his soul. My phone buzzed constantly. Friends from the restaurant. Amelia, even his sister Diana. I answered, only my daughter. I'm okay. This isn't your burden to carry. Enjoy your graduation day. We'll talk tonight. I love you. Because this wasn't Amelia's war, it was mine. Gregory's car pulled into the driveway 3 hours later, the slam of the front door echoing through the quiet house like a storm breaking. Bianca, he shouted, his voice ragged, not triumphant now, but panicked. I sat in the living room, my laptop balanced on my knees, reviewing the documents I had spent months assembling. When he stormed in, his face red, the envelope clutched in his hand like a live grenade, I calmly closed the computer. What is the meaning of this? He demanded, his voice shaking. He waved the papers at me like they might dissolve if he shook them hard enough. You serve me with divorce papers today of all days. I thought it aligned nicely with your plans, I replied, my tone measured, almost casual. You wanted to start a new life? I'm simply helping you with the transition. You had no right. I had every right, I cut in sharper now. Just as you had every right to choose Cassandra. We all make choices, Gregory. You made yours. He smirked, then regaining a shred of his arrogance. The prenup expired years ago. Any lawyer will tell you that. I tilted my head, watching the confidence slip from his face as I answered, actually, it didn't. Section 12 states very clearly that the fidelity clause remains in effect for the entire duration of the marriage. Perhaps your lawyer should have explained that to you. Oh wait, you didn't consult one, did you? The color drained from his face. For the first time in years, I saw fear in his eyes. The same agreement he had demanded to protect his future was now his undoing. He sank onto the couch, his body folding in on itself. You can't do this to me, he whispered. I didn't do this to you, Gregory, I replied. You did this to yourself. His phone buzzed insistently. Cassandra, no doubt. He ignored it, pressing his hands to his temples. Bianca, please. We've been together 28 years. Doesn't that mean anything? I studied him. This man I had once trusted with my whole heart. The man who had held me through 2 miscarriages before we finally had Amelia. The man who once drove 6 hours just to surprise me with tickets to the symphony I loved. Did it mean something? Yes. That's what made his betrayal unbearable. Our history meant everything to me, I said softly. That's why your betrayal cut so deep. But this wasn't a mistake, Gregory. This wasn't weakness. It was a plan. You moved money. You made promises. You rehearsed your grand exit. And you thought I would stand there humiliated while you toasted your freedom. You're exaggerating, he muttered, avoiding my gaze. I picked up my phone and pressed play on a recording. His own voice filled the room. After the graduation, I'll tell her it's over. A public setting is better, she won't make a scene. Then Cassandra's voice. And she has no idea about the money. His answer, none. Bianca trusts me completely. That's her weakness. He shot to his feet, his face ashen. You recorded me. That's illegal. Not in Georgia. Not when one party consents, I said, calm as ever. And not when it's in your own home. I didn't record your private moments with Cassandra. I'm not cruel. Just your plans to defraud me. He stumbled, his mask slipping. I need to make some calls. Of course, I said, rising. Your attorney might be a good place to start. I'll be staying with Diana tonight. His head jerked up. Diana. Yes, I said simply. Your sister. The blow landed. Diana had confronted him last Christmas after catching him with Cassandra, and when he lied to her face, she eventually came to me. He had never expected his own sister to choose my side. Everyone betraying him. The irony stung and I almost laughed. You have until tomorrow to take your things out of the house, I said, collecting my purse. After that, the locks will be changed. His voice cracked, desperate. What about Amelia? Have you thought about how this will affect her? I stopped my fury breaking through at last. Don't you dare hide behind our daughter. You weren't thinking of her when you drained our accounts and planned your beachfront fantasy with Cassandra. His phone buzzed again, louder this time. He glanced at it, his face falling. Cassandra's already at the apartment. She's moved her things in. I allowed myself a smile. The apartment in both your names. The lease you signed last month? You might want to check with the leasing office. That application was flagged and never completed. I handled the call when the agent phoned our house. I walked past him, the sound of his unraveling plans trailing behind me. When I reached Diana's, she greeted me with a fierce hug and a glass of wine already poured. I just heard from Amelia. Are you all right? Better than I expected, I admitted. We sat in her sunroom, the evening light fading around us. She asked me what had been in the envelope, and I told her everything. The prenup, the financial records, the filings. Her laughter was bitter. The irony is delicious, she said. The very document he used to protect himself has become his downfall. My phone rang then. Amelia's voice trembled on the other end. Mom, I'm coming over. Dad's telling everyone you've lost your mind, that you planned this for months. He's saying horrible things. Let him talk, I said, steady, even as my heart ached. The truth will come out soon enough. 20 minutes later, Amelia arrived, still in her graduation dress, mascara, streaked from tears. She collapsed into my arms like she had when she was little. Why didn't you tell me? She whispered. I didn't want to ruin your last semester. You worked too hard for this day. She pulled back, her eyes blazing. Well, Dad ruined it anyway. Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Diana returned with a grim expression. It's Gregory, she said. And he's not alone. Gregory entered first, Cassandra trailing behind him like a shadow, uncertain of its own form. His face was twisted with anger, his movements sharp, impatient. Cassandra, by contrast, looked smaller than I remembered her, her confidence thinned by the storm she had stepped into. Her eyes darted to the floor, to the shelves of books, to Amelia sitting stiff and pale beside me. She avoided my gaze. Bianca, you need to stop this insanity, Gregory barked, standing in the middle of Diana's living room as if he owned the air itself. Unfreeze the accounts and we can talk like reasonable adults. Before I could answer, Amelia rose to her feet, placing herself between us. Her chin lifted with a strength I hadn't expected. Maybe you should have tried being reasonable before humiliating Mom in front of everyone at my graduation, she said, her voice steady despite the tears she had shed earlier. Gregory flinched, as if only now realizing that his daughter was watching, listening, judging. Amelia, this doesn't involve you. Her laugh was sharp, bitter. Doesn't involve me? You blew up our family at my graduation celebration. Dad, you lied to us to meet a mom, and now you say it doesn't involve me. Cassandra's hand twitched at his arm, her voice soft, almost pleading. Greg, maybe we should go. He shook her off. No, I'm not leaving until Bianca agrees to be rational. Diana crossed her arms, her face like iron. Rational. You're the one who turned your daughter's day into a stage for your betrayal. You're the one who created this mess, Gregory. I stayed seated, calm, my hands folded in my lap, watching the unraveling of the man who once thought himself untouchable. I had always been the peacemaker, smoothing over conflict, protecting his pride. That role was dead. The accounts will remain frozen until the hearing in 3 days, I said evenly. The judge will decide then. Gregory's voice rose frantic. 3 days? What am I supposed to do until then? You have your personal account, I replied smoothly. The one you've been funneling money into for the last year. That should be sufficient. Cassandra's head snapped toward him, her eyes narrowing. You have a separate account with how much in it? Gregory's lips pressed into a thin line. He didn't answer. For the first time I saw suspicion spark in Cassandra's eyes. You're vindictive, Bianca, Gregory spat. This isn't like you. Perhaps you never really knew me, I said, my voice calm but sharp enough to cut. Just as I never really knew you. Amelia turned to Cassandra, then her eyes fierce. Did you know? Did you know he was going to stand up at my graduation and announce it like that? Did you know he was going to tear our family apart in public? Cassandra swallowed hard, her composure breaking. I thought he was going to talk to your mother privately. I didn't know he would. Her voice trailed off under Amelia's burning gaze. Gregory glared at her, betrayal flashing across his face. The cracks in their carefully curated future widened right there in Diana's sunroom. I think you should both leave, Diana said, her voice like a verdict. You've upset Amelia enough for one day. Amelia, Gregory tried again, his voice softening, pleading. Relationships change. Sometimes people grow apart. You'll understand one day. Amelia's face hardened, her jaw trembling but strong. What I understand is that you're a coward. You stole from Mom. You lied to me. You told me money was tight while I was working 2 jobs for textbooks, and all the while you were buying jewelry and beachfront fantasies. That's what I understand. Gregory staggered as if struck. He reached for words but found none. Please leave, Dad, Amelia said finally, her voice breaking. I can't even look at you right now. The silence after her words was heavy, suffocating. Finally, Gregory turned, Cassandra trailing behind him with downcast eyes. At the door, he paused, throwing one last desperate look over his shoulder. This isn't over, Bianca. I'll fight you on this. I met his gaze without flinching. You're welcome to try. The door shut. The house exhaled. Amelia collapsed onto the sofa beside me, her body trembling, tears streaming down her face. I've never spoken to him like that before, she whispered. I wrapped my arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. Sometimes standing up for what's right hurts the most. But you were brave, my love. Diana appeared with fresh glasses of wine, her smile grim but hopeful. She raised her glass. To new beginnings, she said. I clinked my glass softly against hers, my arms still around Amelia. To new beginnings, I echoed, though inside I knew this ending was only the beginning of another kind of war. 3 days later, I found myself sitting in a courtroom on a rainy Tuesday morning. Gregory had hired a young corporate lawyer barely out of law school, the desperation obvious. My attorney Philip sat steady at my side, his files neatly stacked. The judge, a woman with sharp eyes that saw through every performance, examined the prenuptial agreement. This document appears to be in order, she said, looking over her glasses at Gregory's lawyer. Do you contest its validity? The young man cleared his throat. Your Honor, we believe the agreement expired due to the length of time. Section 18. The judge interrupted, her voice, clipped, clearly states. The duration extends through the term of the marriage and any legal proceedings resulting from its dissolution. There is no expiration date. Gregory leaned forward, whispering urgently, but the lawyer's face only grew redder. Furthermore, the judge continued, the evidence of systematic fund transfers violates the financial disclosure requirements of Section 23. Therefore, the freeze on joint accounts will remain until discovery is complete. The family home will remain with Mrs. Caldwell during proceedings as stipulated under the infidelity clause. Gregory's face turned dark red. He muttered, This is outrageous, loud enough for the courtroom to hear. The judge fixed him with a glare. Mr. Caldwell, I suggest you read the agreement you signed more carefully. This court will reconvene in 30 days. As I walked out, Gregory caught up to me in the hallway. His voice trembled now, stripped of bravado. Bianca, please. We need to talk about this reasonably. 28 years together must count for something. I stopped, looked at him, the man I once thought I knew, and said, It counted for everything. Until you decided it didn't. And I walked away, the sound of my heels echoing through the courthouse corridor. Word of what had happened spread faster than I could have imagined. In our small social circle, whispers moved like wildfire. Some people called to offer comfort, others called to fish for gossip. I gave them all the same line, steady and measured. Gregory and I are separating. These things happen. It was all they needed to know. The details, the betrayal, the deceit, the financial games, those were mine to carry and mine to reveal only when necessary. Gregory, however, wasn't nearly as careful. His carefully constructed facade, the image of the successful businessman and devoted family man, began to unravel. The financial freeze meant he couldn't deliver on his promises to Cassandra. The beachfront property they had been planning slipped out of his grasp. The deposit on the luxury car evaporated. His life of illusions was collapsing brick by brick. 2 weeks after the hearing, Diana called me, her voice tinged with amusement. Have you heard the latest? She asked. No, I said cautiously. Cassandra moved out already. I wasn't surprised, but the speed with which she fled was remarkable. Diana explained. Apparently, she discovered Gregory's business isn't nearly as lucrative as he claimed. The savings he bragged about don't exist. She told Jennifer she didn't sign up for a man with financial problems. I laughed, truly laughed for the first time in months. He always was skilled at creating illusions, I said. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding not just my life but my sense of self. The separate savings I had quietly maintained gave me freedom Gregory never anticipated. I rented a small office downtown and began to build the consultancy I had dreamed about for years. I called it Caldwell Financial Transitions. My first clients were two women going through divorces of their own, fragile but determined. Word of mouth brought more. Helping them wasn't just work, it was healing. I sat with them through tears, explained accounts and clauses in words they understood, showed them the paths forward when everything felt lost. I became in those moments the woman I wished I had had beside me when Gregory's betrayal first unfolded. Amelia called me often, her voice bright and proud from Charleston, where she had started her job at a marketing firm. I'm so proud of you, Mom, she told me one night after I explained my growing client list. You're helping people in their worst moments. I'm just doing what I wish someone had done for me, I replied softly. Preparing women for what might come, making sure they never feel as powerless as I once did. 6 months later, I had moved into a larger office and hired 2 associates. I walked into that space every morning with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. No longer was I simply Gregory's wife or Amelia's mother. I was a mentor, a business owner, an advocate. But before all that, there was one final confrontation. The full divorce hearing fell on what would have been our 29th wedding anniversary. I wore a simple black dress, not for mourning, but for clarity. Gregory arrived looking worn down, his once polished appearance dulled by stress. I had heard his business was struggling without my management and financial expertise. Cassandra was long gone already, clinging to a real estate developer in Savannah. Most of our friends had drifted away from him after the truth came to light. Some stayed out of loyalty, but even they kept their distance, uncomfortable with the mess he had made of his own life. The judge upheld the prenuptial agreement in its entirety. Gregory left with his personal possessions, his floundering business, and the remainder of his private account, which after legal fees was barely enough for a small apartment. I kept our home, my retirement accounts, and 70% of our joint investments. The justice was poetic. The very document Gregory had once demanded to protect himself had become the knife that cut him down. As we left the courtroom, Gregory approached me one last time. His voice was quiet, stripped of arrogance. I made a terrible mistake. Is there any chance we could... His words trailed off, fragile, almost childlike. No, I said, firm but gentle. That door is closed. He nodded, his eyes shining with something that might have been regret. I hope you find happiness, Bianca. You deserve it. It was perhaps the first honest thing he had said to me in years. Months later, Amelia visited me at my office, her smile radiant, as she looked around at what I had built. You know what's ironic? She said, laughing softly. If Dad had just been honest, he might have kept half of everything. Sometimes people can't see beyond what they want in the moment, I replied. I realized then that the envelope I had slid across the table at Amelia's graduation hadn't just been an act of revenge. It had been the key to something far greater, a door to a new life, a rediscovery of who I was beneath the weight of betrayal. Behind it, I didn't just find justice, I found myself. And for the first time in decades, I was free. If my story touched you, if you felt the sting of betrayal, the strength of survival, or the power of reclaiming your life, please like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear it and subscribe to the channel. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What would you have done in my place?